This is another one where the length of the film is almost the same as the length of time it takes to read this short story or novella, whatever you want to call it. Welcome to my book versus movie for The Map of Tiny Perfect Things. Welcome back, or if you are new here, welcome. My name is Katrina and I make bookish content here on this channel at least twice a week, and then movie reviews or book to movie content at the weekend, but sometimes you get bonus book to movie content like this in the week. There have just been so many adaptations at the beginning of this year. I think maybe they were waiting to see if they were going to put them in theatres, and then they ended up coming to streaming and they've all come at once. So sorry not sorry for the amount of book versus movie videos I've been making. I will leave a playlist of them linked up above if book versus movie is your type of thing, and in the description box you will find all of my social links, including my blog and my Goodreads, so you can keep up with my reading in between videos. Yes, The Map of Tiny Perfect Things has come onto Amazon Prime. It is an Amazon original movie. And the really interesting thing about this is that I actually listened to this story as an audiobook. I believe it was originally released as an anthology, and then the movie was released, so it was released as a separate thing. And the really nice thing is that at the end of the audiobook, you have Lev Grossman, the author, come on and give you a kind of author's note where he does talk about writing the script for the movie. So this is the case where we have the author writing the script, but still we know from listening to that author's note that there are going to be some major differences between the book and the movie. Obviously, as always, I do know that when an author signs over the rights to his work or her work or their work, that things aren't necessarily going to be kept the same. It's just the idea that they're selling. And so I just enjoy bringing the similarities and differences here to you. But yeah, that author's note was really interesting. However, the biggest thing that he kind of like, not spoiled for me, but in the book, the two characters are living in a time loop. So think Groundhog Day, think Palm Springs. Review for that I will leave linked up above. They're living the same day over and over again and thinking about the science behind it, thinking about making the most of it, thinking about what it can do for them and what it can do for their families, which I thought was a really sort of introspective way to think about it. But one of the things that Mark and Margaret find in the book is that they see Sean Bean crossing the street where they are. I can't remember in what context it is, but at the end of the book, when Lev Grossman is talking about making the movie, he was like, I tried to get Sean Bean. I really wanted to have Sean Bean make a cameo in this, but I couldn't get anyone to make a cameo in it. And I'm like, oh no, I was excited for a little Sean Bean cameo in there. I've always been a big fan of Sean Bean. But yeah, that is obviously one of the first differences. I really love the casting of this one. I think sometimes when you read a book, you have ideas of characters in mind, and sometimes the casting can be so different to what you created in your own mind that it can be a little bit jarring. But I really, really enjoyed the casting of this one. I totally bought these two characters as Mark and Margaret. Catherine Newton in particular, everything that she's been in, I've really enjoyed her work, and I think that I hope that she's able to kind of like continue to do quite diverse things, because I've seen her in this, which is obviously a sort of YA romance. She was in Blockers, that I also reviewed when I saw it in the cinema, and she was very funny in that one. And then she was in 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, which is obviously a very like heavily dramatic film. And so I like the fact that she's kind of showing off different things that she can do. And I'm hoping to see more from her in the future. I would definitely go and see a film just based on the fact that she was cast in it. So really, really good casting. On the whole, I would say that the whole Groundhog Day concept and them thinking about the impact of it and the science behind it, I found it easier to follow in the book than I did in the film, which, as I said at the beginning of the video, they're basically the same length. They're both, the film is 1 hour and 40, and I would say that the book is probably about 1 hour and 45 to listen to if you don't listen to the author's note. If you listen to the author's note, it becomes 2 hours because the author's note is quite extensive. But on the whole, I found the book slightly easier to follow. I think because we have Mark kind of like narrating the book and giving us his thoughts and feelings as it goes along. Whereas in the film, you have to have these sort of thoughts and feelings shown, and we see him going from place to place, and we see him interacting with different people. And speaking of those interactions with different people, I would say that the film also kind of opens up the cast a little bit more. So in the book, it's very much like we have Mark and we have Margaret, and we know they have family, and we know they have friends, and we know that they have people that they interact with. But I would say it's sort of expanded a little bit more in the film than it is in the book. So we get to see more of like the impact of Mark living out the same day with his family over and over, depending on like what his attitude towards them is. So sometimes he's feeling quite introspective and just wants to spend time with the family. Sometimes he's feeling like he wants to, you know, go off and fly to Japan. And so we just see him being completely on his own. The same with Margaret. Sometimes we see her having more of an interaction with other people. Sometimes we see her having more of an interaction with Mark. And so it was interesting that the book kind of is very much honing in on just the two of them, whereas the film sort of expands the world a little bit. I really love the like seeing the setting come to life as well. The setting of the film made me kind of want to go and visit that town and drive through it and look at it. It looks quite like a nice small town feel with a main street, and it was just it was always kind of like this sunny feeling, quite a positive outlook, even though these two people know that they're stuck in this one day and know that they could be stuck in this one day forever. It was still quite sunny and light, and like it gave it this whole like golden glow to it. And so I think the film really brought the setting to life. The setting again wasn't as much of a thing in the book as it is in the film. And then I also it was also very interesting because in the short story in the author's note, he talks about his cameo in the film. And so, you know, authors' cameos in their book to movie adaptations are often very quick and very fleeting, but because we get to live this day over and over, we get to see it a few times as well. So that was very cool. So if you don't want to be spoiled on the author's cameo, don't read/listen to the author's note at the end of the book. I'm not going to spoil it as to where it is, but it's quite obvious, and I personally enjoyed knowing where it was before going into the film. So overall, I would say that just because I found it easier to follow and I found it more intense in just staying with Mark and Margaret and following Mark's feelings in particular, I would say I preferred the audiobook / short story / novella, however you might want to read it, over the film ever so slightly. But I really enjoyed the setting and the casting of the film. It's one of those that, even though there aren't many major differences between the book and the movie, it's one of those that I almost see them as separate things. So I really enjoyed my time with the audiobook. I listened to it in one sitting because it was only an hour and 3/4, and you know, I listen on double speed. Whereas I would happily sort of sit down and watch the movie again and just look at it as its own movie, because I did enjoy the cast and I did enjoy the setting. So there you have it. As always, if you have particular book to movie adaptations you would like to see my thoughts on here, let me know in the comments. But do know that I still do have a couple of them in the works. Make sure you are subscribed so that you don't miss out on my March TBR coming up very soon, because there are a couple more adaptations I know are coming, and so those books are going to be on my March TBR. Also hit that notification bell so that you don't miss my book to movie adaptation for Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. I will be back with another video for you very soon. If you enjoyed this one, give it a thumbs up, and thank you so much for watching.